The Warriors are 2-0 in the preseason. I know it doesn't mean a lot, but in terms of morale, in terms of seeing what this product is, I'm personally impressed. I'm looking forward to picking the brain of Sophia Jones. She's going to join me. Trice High is going to join me. We got a panel tonight. We got a live audience. Should be a good time. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, where our live shows are exclusively presented. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more right now. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. You can follow Sophia Jones. She plays basketball for the D1 San Jose State University Spartans. She's also broadcasting royalty, and it's always a pleasure to have her on the program. You can follow her on Twitter. Is that what you're promoting? Oh, no, Instagram. I'm sorry. At Sophia Jones with an extra S and the number 2. Did I get that right, Sophia?
It's 3 S's in total at the end.
3 S's. My sincere apologies for that. So it's at Sophia Jones with 3 S's at the end and the number 2. And then Trice High, who is producing and releasing this incredible 5-part Stephen Curry documentary. Pleasure to finally have you on the show. I'm thankful you involved me in that project. You can follow Trice, subscribe to Trice's YouTube channel at Trice Official. That is where all your content is. Trice, great to meet you, man. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, man. I really appreciate you having me.
Hell yeah, man. I appreciate both of you being here. So we're following this. It's live. The audience is in the house. We're going to get some numbers tonight. Likely it's Friday Night Live. You're damn right, Macchiano. Let's go Warriors. And the Warriors pulled it off. They're 2-0 now. Sophia, I will start with you. What is your immediate reaction? The Warriors are trailing at times. I thought the Lakers were just shooting it off the charts. I didn't think the Warriors could have played much better, in all honesty, but the Lakers still had the lead in the first quarter and the first half, but the Warriors pulled it off. Your reaction to the Warriors being 2-0?
For the first game especially, I was like, okay, LeBron's out. You can kind of, expect it a little bit. But for this game with LeBron playing, I thought it was really impressive that the Warriors were able to pull it off. I was a little worried seeing the 70 points in the first half.
Yeah.
But they were able to kind of collect themselves and get it together on offense and defense. And I was really impressed with the way that the new young core was able to pull out that win.
Hell yeah. The second unit is what is sticking out to me. Trice, you may be a little more impartial. I know Sophia, you're not a Warriors fan, right? I mean, you grew up, I believe, in Miami or somewhere around there. Who's your team before you go to Trice?
So I did grow up in Miami and I love the Heat, but after kind of being here in California in the Bay Area and just watching the Warriors as a basketball player, I honestly just fell in love with the way that the Warriors played, how unselfishly and how much joy all they played with. So I definitely became a Warriors fan as well. So I love watching them play.
There you go. They are a fun team to play. So the reason why I asked is because that means, Trice, you are a resident impartial analyst tonight. I don't think the Warriors are your team. If they are, correct me if I'm wrong. But Trice, as a more impartial observer, given Sophia and I do love the Warriors, what was your impression of this game and the Warriors in general, 2 games in now in the preseason?
I will say I grew up a Chicago Bulls fan. Like D Rose is kind of who got me into basketball back in the day. My uncle was a big Jordan fan, so I grew up a Bulls fan. But Steph Curry stole my heart when it came to basketball, man. I've been a Warriors fan pretty faithfully ever since he really came into the league. So the Warriors have been the main team I follow for a while now. I was really happy to see, as Sophia mentioned, just the way the young guys have really kind of started to develop. What's been big for me this preseason, I just wanted to see Kuminga and Moody more than anybody make a jump. I think that they're the two that kind of hold the keys to, where this Warriors team can go from here. So I'm really happy to see some of the steps they took, and obviously we'll talk about that. But overall, it was good to see them fight. It was good to see the second unit and the young guys like really, take on some of that load and be able to pull out a win. Like it was really cool to see.
Yeah, totally. And the sentiment in the chat so far, and I agree with it, is that the starters did not impress that much. It was largely the second unit who saved the day. As we talked about, the Warriors were trailing after the first quarter in the first half. Jonathan Kuminga, for the second game in a row, led the team in scoring, led all players on both sides of the ball in scoring. Finished the game with 26 points, was a plus 12 in the plus minus. Not a big night from the rebounding perspective, only grabbed 3. But did add 3 assists, also had 2 steals. Just a fantastic night. Obviously, that monster dunk in the first half, I think, was going to be the highlight of this game. But I do agree with what a lot of people are saying. It looked a lot like the second unit was slow. The second unit, they looked old. They looked like there is a difference, in my opinion, between the starters and the second unit. But it's not just like the older players, like Klay. I don't know. Let's start with Klay, because this may be a potentially divisive topic, but will be certainly interesting. I didn't think Klay looked good again, and I was a little critical of him after the first game. For the second game in a row, I feel like he forced a lot of his shots. He had a couple of buckets late in the first half that kind of saved his stat line a little bit. He hit that 1-3 and then a deep 2, but his stat line for the night, 8 points, just 3 of 10 shooting. 50% from 3, but again, the stat line I don't think represents his overall performance. It looked like Kerr was keeping him out there longer than maybe he would have played. He played 23 minutes in this game. Was a -7 in the plus minus. I don't know if the stat sheet though represents how Klay actually performed. Sophia, I'll start with you. What was your impression of Klay Thompson, not only in this game but in the first 2 games? Like, are you pleased? Am I crazy in saying that? I'm a little concerned about Klay. What are your thoughts?
I would say, especially since it's preseason, it's not too much of a concern to get worked up over how Klay is performing. It is underwhelming. You do expect him to do more, but at the same time, he is getting those shots off.
Mm-hmm.
And shoot, at the end of the day, he is historically too good of a shooter to proceed in the same pattern. So I think you can still kind of have faith that Klay is going to be able to show up come regular season.
Good. Okay, so you're impressed. That's encouraging. Trice, your thoughts on Klay Thompson tonight and through the first 2 games?
I think the thing with Klay, and obviously, it's more so now than it was pre-injuries, but it's always with Klay, it's always just, can he find a rhythm? And once he finds that rhythm, it's just he got it and he's good. But sometimes it takes him a minute to get going, and he's gonna get his shots up. He's gonna get his shots up, but he's gonna try to find it. That's what, like Sophia said, shoot or shoot. So I mean, I personally am always gonna have faith in Klay, because when it comes down to it, he usually is gonna pull it out. He's gonna figure it out. But to start this preseason, he has been a little bit, I don't know, rusty is not the word, but he's been having trouble kind of getting shots to fall. He's been kind of forcing the issue a couple places, but you have to trust a guy who's as good at what he does as Klay is, that those shots are going to start falling eventually, especially if he's getting good looks.
Totally. And maybe I'm just nitpicking in my critique. Maybe I'm holding him to the same standard of what we have been used to for most of his Hall of Fame career. But that 3 of 10 shooting performance, I think you nailed it though, Trice. I don't see Klay finding his rhythm yet. Someone in the chat mentioned as well that he plays a lot better when Draymond is in the lineup. And maybe it's just that, but it was a bit underwhelming, in my opinion. And maybe I'm wrong. This is just my opinion about Klay. I hope he turns it around and we see more. We're going to break this game down in tremendous detail. I have a lot of notes that I'm going to present, and I'd love to get you two's feedback from that. Obviously, if you have your own opinions you want to throw them in there. And then toward the end of the show, I want to promote both of you, because you have a lot of stuff going on. Trice, that Stephen Curry documentary is incredible. I cannot encourage people enough to check it out. It's a 5-part series. And then Sophia, of course, you're about to be a rock star broadcaster. You're still playing basketball for San Jose State. So you know this game as well as anyone. We're going to talk about you two, this game tonight, and a whole lot more. Let's get some love first, though, to our sponsor tonight, which is, I believe, FanDuel. Where are we at? Yes, it is FanDuel, the official sports book of the Locked On Podcast Network. Have either of you two ever played with FanDuel, like in terms of opening the app. Sophia, you might not even be 21 yet. So if that's the case, disregard the question altogether. Are you 21, Sophia?
I am actually.
Okay,
Yeah, I turned 21 this past year.
So, well, happy early birthday on that, or belated birthday. I'm sorry. Have either of you then, in that case, played FanDuel? Because we can't play it here in California. Kevin Dana came on the show and introduced VPN as a possible loophole. I will neither confirm or deny if it works, nor will I promote that. But I've heard that's a possibility. Have either of you two played with FanDuel, and any reaction from it?
I have not. No.
All right. How about you, Trice?
I haven't used FanDuel specifically. I as much as I watch sports and stuff, it's something I've thought about getting into, but just haven't necessarily dove into it yet.
Gotcha. And I have dabbled. It is ridiculously fun. I don't know how else to really say it. And look, the NFL season is in full swing right now. Sunday morning, the Niners and Browns are playing. The Niners are my team. I believe they have a perfect record against the spread so far. They have a perfect record, period. Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. And right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's it. You bet $5, win or lose, you get $200 in bonus bets. Bonus bets are as good as cash on FanDuel. It's basically getting $200 for gambling $5. It's an incredible deal. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. It's a super easy and super fun app to use. There's a wide range of betting options, spreads, player props, OUs, you name it, you can bet it with FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com/locked-on and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, the official partner of the NBA, obviously, and the NFL.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. Everydayers, we're going to be back at this on Sunday as we do all season long. If there's a Warriors game, we got post-game coverage right here. So stay tuned and join us again Sunday night. I believe what is it, Warriors and Kings? Is that the third preseason game? Can either of you two confirm that with me? I actually don't have the schedule up in front of me right now, but I think that's what it is. I'm very curious to see how the Warriors handle the Kings because all we've seen so far are the Warriors and the Lakers, now 2 games in. Sophia Jones joins me. You can follow her on Instagram at Sophia Jones with 3 S's at the end, and then the number 2, Trice High, basketball documentarian. You're probably producing more than just basketball, but right now you got a Stephen Curry documentary out. Part 3 was just released today. Go check that out and so much more by visiting Trice's YouTube page. It's at Trice Official. Trice is spelled Trice. So here are some notes that I got from tonight's game, and I'd love to get your feedback on this. First of all, the Chris Paul experiment is now 2 games in, and here are some things I'm noticing about him. For starters, he's been known as being a tremendous defensive player for a long time. I'm observing him in a very different manner now that he's on the Warriors for obvious reasons. One thing I love about him is he plays defensive angles perfectly. What I mean by that is he puts his body right where it needs to be to block off offensive players and to really limit their space, limit their passing lanes. Sophia, I'll start with you. What do you see when you watch Chris Paul play defense? Because I am loving it.
Kind of what you said. I see a player that just has really extensive and high IQ. Obviously, right now he's getting up there in age a little bit. He doesn't have the same step or verticality as a lot of the offensive players that he's guarding. So when you're kind of not able to use that, you have to compensate in other ways. And he does a great job compensating by just using his knowledge, knowing where to push step, where to plant his feet, and just you saw there was like one play he tried to draw a charge, but he's so good at being able to do that. Hopefully we won't get too many flopping calls this season with that implemented, but he's so smart and savvy and being able to do all of that.
Absolutely. It's so weird that all of a sudden now, like when he's getting into it with refs, for the first time in my life, I'm on Chris Paul's side of things. And it's bizarre. I don't know how to really put it into words, what it's like to go from 1 minute looking at him as one of the biggest floppers in the game, one of the dirtiest players in the game. And now all of a sudden when he's getting into it with an official, I'm like, F you, ref. Like, this is our boy now. It's bizarre. It is weird. Trice, your reaction to Chris Paul tonight?
Man, you got to see if FanDuel has a bet you can make on over-unders on flops in the season on Chris Paul. Um, no, let me say it. It's been really weird to see Chris Paul in the Warriors jersey. It really has,
Uh-huh.
but you can't underestimate the value in just the IQ that man brings to the defense. I mean, like, we'll talk about offense, I'm sure, after this, but the defense alone, just making sure guys are in their spots, pulling guys over to the side during timeouts, during breaks in play, and talking through guys, telling them where to be. That kind of stuff is invaluable for a team that has championship aspirations. So it's been really cool to see Chris Paul kind of immediately get into the fold and take that leadership stance. Like, I mean, he wants to win as bad as anybody does, and he's taking the steps to make sure guys are where they need to be. And I think as far as the biggest impact he's made to me defensively, or he will make going forward, is just more so vocally and just, from a leadership standpoint as much as it is from a physical standpoint.
Absolutely. And his stat sheet tonight was a mixed bag, right? He had a lot of like dumb turnovers. It was I don't know if the focus wasn't there. The Lakers were playing good defense. I do want to give him a little credit as well, but he finished this game in 20 minutes or 19 and a half minutes with 5 turnovers. None of the starters were in the positive in terms of plus minus. Clay was -7, Wiggins -8. And we're going to talk about all these guys. So folks in the chat, bringing up the young players, we will talk about Pajemski because he's looking good. We'll touch on that in a moment, but none of this are. Steph was -6, Looney -4, Chris Paul -9. They finished the game though with 6 points on 2 3-pointers. He was 2 for 3 from beyond the arc. So I thought that was encouraging. And I also love what someone in the chat mentioned in terms of not about his constipation. Don't make me laugh. Come on. And whoever, this troll, I got to keep an eye out for a troll who's just barraging our chat tonight. I'm trying to stay ahead of it. But Chris Paul, his mentorship of Jonathan Kuminga, I think is huge. Sophia, I'll start with you. Like, I am seeing them talk a lot. Kuminga has said in interviews that Chris Paul and Rudy Gay have taken on this mentorship role that Andre Iguodala was kind of carrying last year. You play for San Jose State right now. I imagine there's seniors or upper level players on your team that really make a difference in terms of mentorship. What are you seeing, if anything, in regards to Chris Paul mentoring Kuminga and maybe to a lesser extent Moses Moody?
Well, I would say when you look at a player like Kuminga, he relies a lot on his pure athleticism. So having someone like Chris Paul and just those older players being able to tell him and give advice and offer more of those nuances to the game helps to really expand his IQ. It only ends up making him a better player at the end of the day. So you see Kuminga, you saw he was scoring at a very efficient rate today, and it looked really smooth. It looked easy. So having someone like Chris Paul be able to just give you little tips and tricks and insides and out is really invaluable.
Totally agree. Trice, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was really cool seeing him pull Kuminga over to the side and talk to him quite a bit. Like, you noticed at the end of the game after Kuminga shot the free throws, he had him over on the sideline, was talking to him. They were laughing, dapping each other up. Like, it's cool to see, like similar to what we said earlier, like Chris Paul embracing that leadership role, but also that mentor role. And Kuminga needs that. These young guys, there's a underlying young core here that need that guidance, and who better to do that than Hall of Famers like Chris Paul, Steph, Draymond, Clay. Like, these guys are people who can show them the way. Now it's up to the young guys to follow suit.
Absolutely right. And Stephen Curry, real fast in tonight's game, did score 18 points. He was 5 for 8 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, 6 for 6 from the line. So Steph had a solid game, even though he finished -6 in the plus minus. Well, I bring Steph up because one thing I didn't like in this game, and I saw this a lot in the Lakers series, Sophia, I'd love to know what your thoughts are, and that is Steve Kerr for some reason. And I don't know if it's just out of necessity. I don't know. Maybe this is what he wants to do. I don't like Stephen Curry guarding Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves is a bigger player than he looks on the court, and he gives people fits. And I don't like that matchup. To me, it's like it's an injury waiting to happen. Austin, to me, is too big for Steph. He pounds him in the post a lot. I don't like that matchup. And Austin Reeves had a good game tonight, finished with 16 points, was even in the plus minus. But again, Austin Reeves, to me, is a baller. It's incredible what this player has turned into. Sophia, why do you think Kerr is putting Steph on Austin Reeves so much? Is it just a necessity thing? Do you understand what Kerr's doing? What are your thoughts on that defensive matchup?
For the Lakers, they're a very long, tall, lanky team. So I feel like there really isn't a great matchup for Steph to be on. I would say now, especially in the preseason, is a great time to get reps and try to improve that. And I think as well, over these past years, you have seen Steph's defense improve. He's gotten a lot smarter in knowing where to try to get his hands involved. So I think that it was a good situation for Steph, honestly, to just practice doing that, because having another smaller player on the court at the end of the day with Chris Paul is going to happen during the season. So may as well get the reps now during preseason.
Yeah, totally. I guess the only other player I could have seen Steph guarding out there was D'Angelo Russell, and that's who Chris Paul was guarding. Trice, what are your thoughts on that matchup? Are you happy with it? Anything you want to add?
It's a tough matchup for Steph. Austin, you got to give him a little bit of credit. He's a crafty player.
Yes.
He's coming into his own. Like, the Lakers are breathing confidence into him like crazy. So, he's taken advantage of that matchup every time that they've been put together. So I don't know who would be a better option in their starting five or Steph to guard. I think it's one of those things that you kind of have to live with and just adjust the help coming over and everything else, and maybe try to get some rotations going where Steph can get off quicker and stuff. So, it's tough, but Steph's always been a smart defender. He's always been able to kind of avoid too many issues with, whether it be getting into foul trouble or getting into, getting stuck on matchups that aren't good for him. He's usually good about getting away and kind of letting other guys step over and help and things. So I think he'll be fine. I think he'll figure it out. The Lakers are just kind of a matchup problem for the Warriors right now, as far as they're in more ways than just Steph on Austin Reeves, but especially in that aspect. So it's something they're going to have to figure out.
Yeah, and again, this is the price you pay when you start both Chris Paul and Stephen Curry. And yeah. I don't know. And the only other player I could think of that Steph could guard and said would be D'Angelo Russell. I don't know if that's a speed issue in terms of Steph maybe getting exhausted, but Steph rarely gets exhausted. So I don't know what's going on there. Maybe maybe it's just not that big of a deal. Continuing on in my notes, the Lakers scored 37 first quarter points, but they also shot 60% from beyond the arc. There just wasn't much the Warriors could have done there. The Lakers also had 0 turnovers in that first quarter. They were just on fire. So I thought, despite the fact that the Warriors were down early in the game, they were doing fine. And the end result shows that the Warriors came back and they won the game, thanks in large part to a second unit, including Podziemski, Kuminga. We'll talk about them in a moment. One thing I saw in this game, I didn't see a lot of it, and I'd love to get your two's thoughts on this. The Warriors were actually playing a full court press. I don't know if you saw that. It was early in the game. I think it was mostly in the first quarter and maybe first half. I don't know if I've ever seen the Warriors play a first quarter press in my life. I'm sure they have, but I was starting to think, I'm like, when have I seen this? Couldn't think of one moment. Again, maybe it's a stoner brain of mine that's preventing me from remembering when this has previously happened. But I was seeing a full court press. I was seeing a zone defense that was overly aggressive. Kuminga was defending up at the half court line in a zone. That was a new wrinkle. That's not something I've seen before. Sophia, did you notice that as well? And your thoughts on the Warriors going full court defensively and adding some half court pressure with zone? What do you think about that?
I did notice that. I would say one of the issues that the Warriors have struggled with last year, and you saw it a little bit in this game, is defending without fouling. And when you're able to go into a zone, that kind of limits the one-on-one defense that guys have to play. So you're able to not get as many foul calls. As well as when you put the pressure full court, it allows for less time for teams to get into their half-court offense, which the Warriors also struggled to defend a lot of downhill actions. So I felt like the full court press was a good move.
Same. And I think Kev adds a great point that Gary Payne II and Brandon Podziemski, they're such aggressive defensive players. You can implement a full court press a lot easier with personnel like that. I especially loved how Gary Payne II looked in both these first two games. He looks like the GP2 of the championship Warriors 2 years ago. He looks damn good. Trice, your thoughts on that defensive scheme? Did you notice it yourself? Any thoughts you want to add?
Yeah, one thing I'll say about Gary Payton, I'm just happy to see him healthy. I don't think he was ever healthy when he was in a Warriors uniform last season. He just never looked like himself. He was a step slow.
Yeah.
But seeing him these past two games, he does so much on the defensive end that it's invaluable, the gaps he can fill between like guards and bigs and rotations and things that he does is really great to see. And I like seeing Kerr getting aggressive in a preseason game. I mean, that's against the Lakers, someone who eliminated them last year. Like, I mean, I like seeing Kerr say, hey, we're here to win the game. And I think Doc Rivers, who I'm not sure how I feel about him on the broadcast yet, but I think Doc Rivers at the end of the game pointed it out, how he noticed Kerr being more aggressive in his coaching schemes during the game. And I think Kerr wanted to see what the young guys had tonight. And that second unit is great for a full court press lineup. I mean, man, when you're talking about Gary Payton and Kuminga, the length that they have, and Moody, some of those guys, and then obviously the Brandon is another guy that now comes into the fold. So you got some guys on the defensive end in that second unit that can really like cause some havoc.
Hell yeah, you're absolutely right. Trice, you brought up the broadcasters. Let's go off on a side tangent for a moment there and talk about that. Sophia, you are as close to an expert as could be on this subject. Your dad is a legend. Mike Breen is in the 1A lineup of NBA broadcasters, but your dad has sat in that seat. He filled in for the NBA Finals. In my opinion, he's just as good as Mike Breen. And they have a new lineup. Mike Breen is joined by Doc Rivers, who replaced former Warriors coach Mark Jackson. I always thought that was a little awkward every time the Warriors would be on national TV and there's Mark talking about Steve Kerr. I mean, he's got to have personal feelings about that. So now you have Doc, which was a total different wrinkle. And the Doris Burke is now a permanent member of that first unit. Sophia, your thoughts on listening to that A lineup of ESPN in their debut tonight?
It was definitely jarring at first because I wasn't used to it, I would say, especially with Doc Rivers' voice. It can kind of catch you a little off guard. Yeah. But I enjoyed listening to them. I thought they made some really great points. My dad usually works with Doris a lot, so I love Doris. I loved hearing her on the broadcast, and I thought it worked well. I'm interested to see kind of how their team goes moving forward.
Absolutely. Trice, your thoughts on the broadcast unit tonight. I mean, I know there's nothing to do with basketball, but look, we're inviting these individuals into our homes. And what was your thought listening to them tonight?
Well, first things first, I didn't realize Mark Jones was Sophia's father. That's fire. I mean, Mark Jones is that's my guy. Like, hell yeah. Deep like the fries at the bottom of the bag or whatever he says with someone that in his bag like the fries at the bottom or whatever. I mean, that line is every time he says that, I'm like, oh my God, he's got bars for days. So Mark Jones is my guy for sure. So that's cool. Hell yeah. But no, I'm gonna miss Mark Jackson on the call. I'm not gonna lie. Him and Jeff Van Gundy got in some weird arguments during games that I always thought was just kind of like why are y'all doing this right now on camera? But Mark Jackson's another guy who just like I always appreciated his insight as a coach. Now saying that, Doc Rivers did provide some cool insight having just got off the sideline. So like when he was talking about, there was one part in the broadcast he was talking about how the coaches feel when all the players want them to challenge calls. And he was like, everybody always comes to you. They want to challenge every call. And that was a cool insight because like, obviously like he just got through having to deal with that in big games. So that was cool. I thought that was, it was interesting to get that insight. I think it'll grow on me over time. It's just hard. It's hard to hear that change. It was very sudden,
Totally. No, I totally understand. Yeah, but like Sophia, like you said, Doris Burke is a legend. I mean, what was Drake saying a few years back? Remember he had a shirt or something like that, like "Marry Me" or "I'm in love with you."
Drake's like in love with Doris Burke. Yeah. He's been in love with Doris Burke for a minute.
Dude, she's a legend. She's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, she is. She's a legend.
Agreed. Totally agree, Trice. Let's talk about Jonathan Kuminga. It's incredible we went this long without showing the man love. When I was watching him play tonight, the only thought that kept coming into my mind, first of all, it might be unfair, but I kept comparing him to Wiggins. Wiggins to me was flat. And this is 2 games in a row now where Andrew Wiggins should be healthy, should be fresh, but he's not really bringing it. He was 1 for 5 from 3. He was 4 for 11 from the field, finished the game with 9 points, had 3 rebounds, -8 in the plus-minus stat. Then you have Jonathan Kuminga coming in, 9 for 12 from the 3. He's finally showing what I've been saying for 2 years now, that the kid can actually shoot the ball. He just looks a little awkward, but I'm telling you, he's got that Jimmy Chitwood form straight out of the movie Hoosiers. He was 3 for 5 from beyond the arc. Again, the rebounding number a little disappointing. 3, where that there's been a big focus on that. had 3 assists, 2 steals, had 5 turnovers in his first game, dropped that number down to 3 tonight, was plus 12, finished the game again with a game-leading 26 points. But look, sooner than later, there's going to come a point, I think, where Steve Kerr is going to have to play this kid. And it's not just because he's talented and he deserves it. I think it's for the Warriors' benefit. Like, he's quickly becoming one of their best players. Sophia, what your reaction to Kuminga's night tonight? And what do you think there's going to come a time soon, maybe it's even now, that Kuminga should start getting heavy minutes?
I agree with you. I was impressed on his night. I thought he had a great performance. I do think that you have to look at his performance tonight in relation to the fact that he was in that second unit that was almost all rookies and just younger players. So it is different when you're on the court with Steph, Clay, and Draymond. The dynamic has changed a little bit. You don't know if you'll have the ball in your hands as much, but his motor and his activity are things that are never going to change. And I feel like consistently you're able to see that he has high both motor and activity. And even today, he had the defensive assignment. He guarded LeBron a couple times. So he can be that defender as well to take on those big defensive assignments.
Trice, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think this year is going to be huge for Kuminga's development. It's kind of, when you look at it, it's a year that they really need him on paper. Like, they need him to step up in that second unit and potentially more even in a big role within the rotation going forward. Now, Kerr has been hesitant to play him in the past for different reasons, whatever. I think this year he's got to be playing at least 20 minutes a game at the very least. I mean, maybe 25. Like, he's got to be a major part of the rotation, in my opinion, for multiple reasons. Now, a lot of that comes down to his decision making. How well is he going to shoot the ball? Like, spacing issues, things like that, especially when you got a starting lineup that is getting increasingly less spacing, is with, hopefully, obviously Chris Paul showed some good signs tonight, knocking down a couple threes, but you have concerns with that. So, I liked what I saw from him tonight. I think obviously it does change the dynamic whenever he's in the game with the starters. He's not going to be having as much usage as far as the ball being in his hands and doing as much. I think he kind of over dribbled a few plays tonight, kind of, having a little more freedom to show what he can do, which is not a bad thing. It's what preseason's all about. No, it's like what preseason's all about. But I think Kuminga showed a lot of good signs tonight. That jab step he hit on LeBron moved LeBron about 3 feet to the right, 1-2 dribbles, and rose up and punched around Anthony Davis. Davis made a business decision. Like, that was a flash right there of what Kuminga can become.
Absolutely. And it's easy to forget the kid just turned 21. So, he's not at the same rate as a player like, for example, Brandon Pajemski or Trace Jackson Davis, who played a lot of college ball, who have the pedigree of parents and mentors who guide him. Kuminga is, considering where he is at his age, I think he's right on track, if not ahead. And I'm loving what I'm seeing. I'm very impressed. Steve Kerr was experimenting tonight a little bit. And what we saw in the third quarter was Dario Saric taking Kevon Looney's minutes, playing the center role. And Anthony Davis was having a night, as he usually does. And tonight was no exception. Finished the game in 22 minutes of play with 13 points, 6 rebounds, a lot of easy baskets inside. Sophia, what are your thoughts on Dario Saric? I see personally some defensive limitations. Players can blow by him. I'm not saying he's a traffic cone. I just think it's just, I don't think he has the athleticism to keep up with some of the fastest players, but offensively, he's solid. He stretches the floor. He gives you size. And again, we saw a taste of what he looks like with the starters. What did you see, Sophia? Your thoughts on Dario Saric?
I agree with what you said. Defensively, I don't know if there was too much of a difference between him and Looney, but offensively, I did like that he can stretch the floor a little bit. He can shoot. I also like the fact that he can grab a rebound and push the ball. He's a little bit more mobile than Looney.
Yep.
It might take some time for him to get used to playing in that squad that has experience playing together before, but it could potentially be something good. I just get a little bit concerned over the lack of rim protection.
Yeah, your thoughts, Trice?
My biggest concern with if we start making it a Dario versus Looney thing as far as, fighting for minutes is, can Dario turn around and grab the rebounds that Looney can? That's the thing. Looney keeps plays alive on the offensive end. He is increasingly underrated as a presence in the middle on defense. I do. It's kind of a give and take though, because then you look at Dario's capabilities of what he opens up in the offense is just like, it's really exciting to think about all the different avenues he unlocks offensively as far as the things they can do with that space, the way he can kind of get out in transition. It's tough to say as far as, does he deserve to be in that first unit? Like, does he deserve to start? I don't know. It's kind of too early to say that, but I think he definitely is going to be something we look back on and say, oh, he was a great pickup for this team. Like, he's someone that fills a need that they desperately need, which is a stretch big, someone who can kind of create some space in the middle, especially in that second unit when you got a lot of guys who like to get to the rim.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's going to be important for him to get in the fold quickly. And it's going to be cool to see how he fits in with that first unit.
Hell yeah. And I want to finish the show talking about two youngsters who I thought shined in tonight's game. One being Brandon Pajemski. 2 games in, this kid is, I mean, what the 2 players so far who are making me giddy about this Warriors team is Kuminga, obviously, but then right behind him is Brandon Pajemski. In tonight's game, 10 points, that's nothing to write home about in 25 minutes, but 10 assists, 6 rebounds, led the team in plus minus with plus 16. The kid looks like a veteran out there. I'm very pleased so far with what we're seeing from Brandon Pajemski. And I thought Trayce Jackson-Davis in his second game also looked fantastic. Both these young rookies look like they belong. Both these young rookies look like they could be part of the foundation of the future for this Warriors team. I know I might sound a little hyperbolic saying this, but I'm not exaggerating. These kids look good. Sophia, your thoughts on these 2 youngsters so far through 2 preseason games?
I have been impressed with Pajemski. You mentioned the 10 assists, and he also had 0 turnovers, which for the Warriors team, they can be a little careless. They can be a little too loose with the ball sometimes. So it was really nice to see him take care of the ball. I feel like he makes a lot of those hustle plays that are underrated, that sometimes don't always show up in the stat sheets. He was a really good rebounder at Santa Clara, and you can see that kind of translate into now as well. And overall, I think he's just a very unselfish player, which when you're surrounded by such talented shooters, you don't need to have the ball in your hands for more than a split second, and he's able to make those quick decisions and quick passes. So I think he'll fit in very well with the squad.
Oh, totally.
And you mentioned Trayce Jackson Jr. He just offers a level of composure that I think is really nice as well. He always seems to end up in the right spots for that dump-off pass.
Yes, he does. He knows where to be. And Trayce Jackson-Davis in 11 minutes tonight was a perfect 4 for 4 from the field. Had 3 assists, 5 rebounds. Wait, no, I'm sorry. 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 8 points. And Brandon Pajemski, just to follow up on what you said about his rebounding numbers in college, he averaged 8.8 rebounds a game last year for Santa Clara. Trice, your thoughts on these 2 youngsters as we wrap the show up?
Yeah, let me tell you, BP is a hooper. Like, he's a hooper. When you watch him play, he can fit into a rotation. And I know Steve Kerr doesn't like to play rookies. I know that's been his thing. It's kind of, he learned it from Pop early on, where you let the rookies develop. You got to get these guys on the floor if they're going to help the team. I would like to see Brandon kind of develop into, and this is might be a little bit of a stretch, I'd like to see him develop into a Josh Giddey type player off the bench, someone who can push the pace, can run the point as a bigger guy, get rebounds, but also do it as more of a scorer as well. I think he can be kind of that all-around guard that you need if he develops. Obviously, that's kind of down the line. As far as TJD goes, I really like the way that he kind of fits the Warriors classic mold of an undersized big who's got some athletic ability. Like, he reminds me of a more athletic Looney in some ways. Obviously, Looney still has something over him as far as the IQ and the experience with the starters, all that. No taken away from that. But I do see Trice being able to fill in over time some of the carve out a role, I should say, in that rotation and fill that need for the Warriors because as we all know, like they need more of a presence inside. That's been an issue the last few years. So hopefully he can step into that and hopefully they're able to get an opportunity to earn some minutes on the floor in games that count.
Absolutely. Someone in the chat, I was trying to look for. Oh, here we go. Ernie B. Hernandez writes, I wish we saw or hopes to see Garuba play on Sunday. I agree. I was looking for Usman Garuba tonight. That's the only player I thought was missing. Rudy Gay was it looked a little slow out there. Any thoughts on Rudy Gay real fast as we wrap the show up? I wasn't that impressed, but whatever. He's 37. I don't know. What are any final thoughts on Rudy Gay, Sophia or Trice? Sophia, you go first.
I just see kind of a similar role to where Chris Paul is able to just have that veteran presence. He was in there with the young guys a couple of times where sometimes, you're trying to play fast, you're thinking so much and just need a little bit of a calming presence. So I felt like he was good in that sense and just able to share some of his knowledge overall.
Yeah. Any last thoughts, Trice, on Rudy Gay, who's battling for that 14th roster spot?
Yeah, I like Rudy. Obviously, it's hard to think about him now versus him back in the day with the Grizzlies. Like you got to kind of like this is a whole different player.
Yeah.
I think if he did make the roster, it would be in like an Iguodala type role last year, not like old Iguodala, like Iguodala last year, where you're kind of just a mentor on the bench, step in when you need to. Real quick, what I will say is shout out to my man Moses Moody. He hooped tonight, and I love the way that he has kind of shown some flashes of the last couple of games. This is a big year for him, and I really want to see him take off. We got an Arkansas connection. That's where my family's from. So I've always been a fan of Moses, and I really want to see him take a step this year. So
let's talk about him for a second. We're running late, so look, the moment I go over like 35 minutes, I'm in trouble. So I'm already in trouble, so we might as well produce a great show while we're at it. I love Moses Moody. I thought he had a slow start tonight. We didn't see him in the third quarter at all, and I was really hoping that wasn't Kerr punishing him with a short leash. But then we thankfully saw him play in the fourth quarter, finished the game strong after a slow start, which included 4 total turnovers in this game. Went 5 for 9 from the field, was 3 of 4 from beyond the arc. Finished the game he was the third leading scorer tonight. He was the second leading scorer in the preseason opener. Tonight, Stephen Curry was your second leading scorer with 18. Moody finishes the game with 15 points. I love the kid. He played for Eric Musselman, like you said, in your backyard, Arkansas. Sophia, I'll include you in this as well. Let's finish the conversation with Moses Moody. What do you think about Moody? I love him. I want him to play 25 minutes a night. What are your thoughts on Moses Moody, Sophia?
I would like to see him be able to play those 25 minutes and step into a role. I feel like at this point he can contribute. He makes the right plays. He knows what he needs to do. He's a very smart and savvy player. He doesn't do more than that's outside of his capabilities. So I feel like he's a good person to have on the floor.
There you go. Trice, add on to that, man. This is your boy. And again, you have my support 100%. And anything positive you say about Moses Moody, I love the kid. I really see him as being an integral part of this Warriors future. Add on to what you already said, sir.
One thing I've always appreciated about Moody is when he's on the court, it just seems like good things happen. It seems like he's always contributing to winning plays. He's a hustle guy. He's going to get after loose balls. But also on the offensive end, his bag's a little more deep than what he's been able to show. And it comes out every now and then in big moments where he'll hit like a little step back or like he'll hit consistently from 3. And you're like, okay, this guy could fit in the fold. Kind of similar to Kuminga. I hope they get a chance this year to really show what they can do. They've earned their stripes, man. This is year 2 or 3 where they've been in development. It's time for them to get on the floor. Like this team needs them now. So I'm excited to see how they develop this year.
Hell yeah, dude. I'm going to make this a 2-part show unless you both have to leave. Because I want to add on to that, the Moody conversation by saying we still haven't seen it yet. I think there's some conversation going on now, but I am so intrigued in terms of what Chris Paul is going to bring to the table with that second unit. Like Sophia, how much better do you think they're going to be when Chris Paul takes that 6-man role and he's leading a unit that includes Kuminga, Moody, Saric, and Gary Payne II? That's probably going to be your primary second unit. What do you envision with that? I'm just buzzing over, full of excitement over this. Like, what are your thoughts on that second unit if Chris Paul takes that role eventually? Because he's starting for now.
I'm looking forward to seeing what it's going to entail. I feel like when you looked at this when he was a starter, there were times where it looked a little choppy. You could tell maybe he was getting used to the pace a little bit. He plays a little bit more of a slowed down game. He's a wizard off of the pick and rolls. So I feel like you set him up with Kuminga, with Moody, able to just work on that, some pick and roll, some pick and pop. And I feel like there will be a lot of really great things to come with that because he's just such a smart, savvy IQ player. And when you have an offense as free flowing as the Warriors is, IQ is everything.
Totally. Trice, what do you see with Chris Paul being in that second unit with those players?
I think that's probably the best place for him at this point. I think the Warriors will figure that out as the season goes on. Hopefully I'm wrong. Maybe like it would be cool to see him and Curry on the floor at the same time, but I feel like he can be best served with that second unit. Just that you mentioning who he would be with and the way that I could see him orchestrating some crazy offense between having Kuminga and Moody out there with Sarge stretching the floor and some of those other young guys we just talked about. If they can get on the floor with Brandon or TJD being a lob threat, because that's one thing that I think Chris Paul is missing with the Warriors right now is he doesn't have a lob threat that can be that above the rim guy. That's something he's had his whole career. And I mean, if obviously the roster's kind of becoming more kind of shored up already, but I would have liked to see them grab somebody who can be a little bit more above the rim to be that pick and roll threat with Chris Paul, because that's something that's always so lethal, with him.
Yeah. So do you not see Kuminga possibly filling that lob role?
I could. So it just depends on how much you want to see Kuminga being a pick and roll, like setting screens kind of guy. So,
Right.
I mean, it really depends on, and I think it's something that's a wrinkle they can throw into the offense for sure. I mean, I think Kuminga's definitely athletic enough to be that guy. And I think even if it's not the pick and roll, whether it be backdoor cuts on the fast break, like Chris Paul can still, if they're on the floor at the same time, like Chris Paul can put it where only Kuminga can go get it. So, I mean, it'd be cool to see them kind of work that dynamic out in that second unit.
A lot of people in the chat are expressing, or maybe it's just a fringe minority, but they're the loudest. I can't tell, but quite a few people in the chat are clamoring for Dwight Howard, Boogie Cousins, basically a big body who could make life more difficult for Anthony Davis. I haven't really been entertaining that notion that much, simply because I don't think it's realistic. Boogie is never going to come to the Warriors. They brought Dwight Howard in and decided no. So, even though a lot of you folks want that, realistically, it's probably not going to happen. This is likely the team that we're going to see. Again, seeing the starters tonight, they did look slow. They did look uninspired a little bit. But do you agree with the folks in the chat and anyone else out there who thinks this team still needs one more big, or are they fine the way they are? Sophia, I'll start with you.
I think they do need one more big. After my dad told me he heard that apparently Dwight Howard's workout went great, but the Warriors just decided to go in another direction. They just really lack that rim protection. You saw Anthony Davis go to work in the league today. That's very, I guess you could kind of say, dominated by centers between Embiid, Jokic, Bam Adebayo. You need someone that's going to be able to bang down low, and the Warriors just don't really have that.
I agree. Trice, your thoughts?
I was selfishly hoping they would have signed Dwight. I was really looking forward to see if his workout went well. I think that he's obviously stayed in incredible shape. He's just an athletic freak. And he's just obviously a Hall of Fame player. But I don't think, obviously, now that he's come and gone, I think that's probably out of the picture. Boogie Cousins, I don't think was ever in the picture for this season. An interesting name that's kind of come up now, having been waived by the Hornets, is Kai Jones. I don't know the inner workings of what's going on with him and mentally what he's got going on. He's an interesting cat, but man, we talking about a lob threat. Someone like him, that guy could fly. So, I mean, he just got waived. He's a former first round pick. It'd be interesting to see if they took a flyer on him, at least for a workout.
Yeah, and the only reason why I haven't really been saying or bringing up Kai Jones much is because this team is so focused on chemistry. And, we heard Mike Dunleavy Jr. Say that word connectivity over and over again this offseason. And it looks like they're happy in that regard. That's the only reason why Kai Jones doesn't seem realistic to me. But you never know. I mean, you're right. He's a huge athletic dude.
Good point.
He would make a huge impact for this roster. But again, the Warriors also don't have Draymond Green, right? I mean, so it's Anthony Davis probably would not be having as easy of a time inside if Dre was playing tonight. I'm not as concerned about it as some other people are, but Sophia, I do agree with you as well that it would be nice if they had just one more. And just going off what you said, I mean, your dad is about as good of a source as you're going to get. And if the workout went great, and literally right after the workout, Dwight Howard went with Draymond, with Chris Paul down to Southern California to continue workouts. I think Stephen Curry also went to that workout. I don't get it. Yeah, I don't understand what happened there. I would have loved Dwight Howard being the 14th man on this team, but I don't know, man. What are you going to do? Sophia, promote away. What do you got going on in life? You don't know for certain yet if you're going to play for San Jose State this year. Is that correct? Well, what's the latest there? Are you going to play? How's your knee feeling? And promote anything else you have going on. The floor is yours.
Yeah, so coming off of a torn ACL and meniscus, but I'm looking to get cleared soon and be back this season playing. And our first game is November 6th at home versus Santa Clara. So that would be a great one for people to show out. And we have I think we have 3 games this year on NBC Sports Bay Area as well, televised. That's awesome. Our one game versus San Diego State on Fox Sports 1.
Hell yeah, that's my alma mater. So real fast. So when is that first game again against Santa Clara? What's the date?
November 6th.
All right, November 6th. I'll try and stay in touch with me. Remind me to promote that. That is awesome. And so you don't know if you're going to be playing in that game yet? Is that TBD?
Yes.
Okay. All right. How's the knee feeling TBD. Though? Do you feel ready? How's it? How are you feeling?
Ups and downs. Okay. I'll just leave it at that.
Fair enough. That's a serious injury. So I wish you the best of luck with that. That's very exciting. We'll be in touch. And especially if you do play, please let me know. I'm going to promote the ever living, what out of that. So that is very cool. And Trice, you have been producing documentaries for I don't know how many years now. They seem to be mostly sports related, if my research is correct. And right now you have a 5-part Stephen Curry documentary that's in the middle of a release. You just released part 3 today. Again, your YouTube channel is Trice Official. That's the YouTube handle. Promote away, man. What do you got going on? Tell people about what they can expect in these Stephen Curry documentaries. Floor is yours, please.
Well, I appreciate that. And for anybody watching, if you are a fan of sports documentaries, if you're a fan of the Golden State Warriors, then you will absolutely love the series me and my guys have been working on about Stephen Curry. It stretches all the way from the beginning of his journey with Golden State to all the way into the 4th championship. It's a 5-part series. We're currently part 3 just released tonight. I highly encourage you to go check it out. Again, you can search on YouTube, just search Trice. Usually it'll pop up right away. The logo is a TH. If not, just type in Trice Stephen Curry. It'll be one of the first things that pops up. I highly encourage you start with part 1, work your way through it. I guarantee you, if you're a fan of this of the Warriors in general or of basketball, you'll love it. Cyrus was a great interview we had. We had the great Rick Barry, Hall of Famer, that sat down with me for a great interview about Steph. A couple of other media personalities from the Warriors that do some great podcasts that I'm sure people are fans of. Sat down with me and they poured their hearts out about both Steph Curry, about the Warriors, and we were able to create something really special. So it's even if you're not just a Steph Curry fan, if you're a Warriors fan, you'll appreciate it. So part 3 just dropped tonight. The rest of the series is on the way, and at the end, it's going to be released as a full-length documentary encasing Curry's entire career. So it's going to be really cool.
Oh, I can't wait for that. And it's a 5-parter again. So if you just search Trice High Steph, is that how people can find it?
Yeah, or just Trice, like TRICE Stephen Curry, or even sometimes if you just search Trice, it'll be the first thing that pops up. The official YouTube channel handle is at TRICE Official, so that's at Trice Official. The YouTube channel itself is just named Trice, TRICE. And if it doesn't pop up right away, if you type in basketball with it, it'll be the first thing to pop up. The logo is a TH. But we have literally hours of original basketball, short films and documentaries for you to enjoy. And I really hope you guys check it out. I'd love to interact with you on my channel and get to know some of you.
Love it. And it's available now. Sophia, best of luck in your recovery. Trice, best of luck with all your future endeavors. And again, the Stephen Curry documentary is out now. Strongly recommended. And that's it. That does it. The Warriors come out victorious. It was a close game, but they're now 2-0 in the preseason. Thank you both tremendously for your contributions tonight. This was a great show, in my humble opinion. Sophia, we'll talk soon. Trice, will talk soon. Thank you to everyone joining the live chat. Thank you to everyone. We had a huge audience tonight. Bye-bye.